Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I am Mazra Hassan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
President instructs to vaccinate people confined to their homes due to illness. Health restrictions relaxed further. Interprovincial transport services suspended. Trade unionists including Stalin and Nagamur released from quarantine. Is former Minister SB Dissanayake dissatisfied?
Pansal යනවා මඤ්ඤොක්ක හදනවා බතල හදනවා අල හදනවා.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has instructed officials to commence a mobile vaccination program for people confined to their homes due to illnesses. The instruction was issued during a meeting of the COVID-19 Prevention Committee at the Presidential Secretariat today.
Officials at the COVID-19 Prevention Committee meeting said that the vaccination drive has been fast-tracked in the country. The issues in vaccinating people confined to their homes due to illnesses had figured during the discussion. The President had then instructed to formulate a plan involving a mobile vaccination program or a hotline with assistance of medical officers of health and public health inspectors. During the meeting, it was revealed that many people who were infected or had died due to COVID-19 had not been vaccinated. Accordingly, the President had highlighted the need for a program to create awareness on the importance of the jabs. He had instructed that employees in any sector should be allowed to obtain the vaccine at any center.
A flight carrying the batch of vaccines had reached the country at around 9 a.m. today. The vaccines are being distributed under the World Health Organization's COVAX initiative. U.S. Ambassador Elena B. Teplitz officially handed over the consignment to Health Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi today.
Thanks. We're very happy this morning to be part of Sri Lanka's COVID success story.
We were able to import many brands of vaccines to Sri Lanka. With the intervention of the President, we are now able to administer any brand of vaccine among Sri Lankans. Therefore, we believe that the entire population above 30 years will be vaccinated in a couple of months.
We can store Moderna vaccines under a temperature of -20°C. The efficacy of this vaccine stands at 93%. We hope to allocate these vaccines to complete the vaccination drive in the Kandy district.
We are just supporting Sri Lanka in its amazing effort to ensure vaccination to everybody over 30 by August. So it's not just the vaccines that we have supported through the COVAX facility, but also the supplies that are required to roll out the vaccines. We really appreciate the United States' efforts in providing these vaccines and strengthening the COVAX platform, which UNICEF and WHO and our other partners are really focusing on as a critical platform to ensure equity in vaccine availability.
The vaccines were moved from the Bandaranayake International Airport to a private storage facility in Valisara. Authorities have further relaxed the travel restrictions in the country.
Accordingly, indoor musical concerts can be held with 50% of the seating capacity. But outdoor musical shows and festivals will remain prohibited. Zoos can be kept open with a 25% capacity, while wildlife parks and reserves can open. Children's parks, hotels and rest houses have also been permitted to be kept open. Betting centers can also remain open under the relaxed travel restrictions. Places of worship can be kept open, while religious ceremonies can be held in line with health guidelines. Adventure and camping sites have been permitted, along with sports and games that do not involve physical contact.
Restrictions reimposed on public transport services. During the last couple of days, we allowed a limited number of buses to operate between provinces. However, most of these buses were not able to transport passengers based on the guidelines of the Health Ministry. That is why we have decided to suspend it again. We have received permission to resume these services from the 1st of August. The same will apply to train services. The Delta variant is highly prevalent in the areas near Colombo. Considering that it can be widely found in the Colombo district, health authorities say that it can be transmitted to other areas by people who engage in unnecessary travel.
මේක ගමට ව්‍යාප්ත විය හැකි කියන කාරණේ තමයි සෞඛ්‍ය අංශ සඳහන් කරන්නේ.
the current COVID-19 situation. You are aware that more people have been detected with the Delta variant. 80 new COVID-19 cases with this variant have been reported. A person who has obtained both doses of the vaccine is also at a risk of contracting the virus. Therefore, everyone, including those fully vaccinated, should wear face masks, maintain a distance of 1 meter from people, and cleanse their hands frequently. We are relaxing the restrictions gradually. Interprovincial travel restrictions have been relaxed to allow those travelling for essential purposes. A decision on maintaining or relaxing the restrictions will be made based on the detection of infected individuals and also the detection of the Delta variant. Importance of protecting children.
There are over 10 children who have died in this hospital due to the corona infection. In regarding this, actually, I want to express that these all 490 children were infected through their parents and other family members. As the parents and family members, they have to take their responsibility to protect their children. Even though they vaccinated, they can act as carriers. Though they are not getting symptoms, they don't have that corona infection, but still they can infect others. So that their parents, they have to think about their children and other family members and other society.
Protest, those are the views expressed during the teachers' protest. Now, protest was staged in several areas, citing that trade unionists are being arbitrarily held at detention centers. Members of the United Association Against the Government Suppression visited the Presidential Secretariat today.
The trade unions had visited the Presidential Secretariat to hand over a memorandum seeking to release 38 people who have been moved to quarantine. This was how the President arrived at the Secretariat. Officials at the Presidential Secretariat then held talks with the protesters. We wish to tell the Minister in charge of the police and the President that we will not backtrack on our action if this continues. We have complained to the international community, including the European Union and international trade union groups. Cases have been filed at the Supreme Court. Both the private and public sectors will resort to a massive strike if the suppression continues. Meanwhile, the police intervened during protests organized by the Teachers Union in the Kurunegala district. The protesters then staged a demonstration at the Kurunegala town for nearly an hour. Hundreds of teachers gathered here to teach the government where the teachers and principals are scoundrels, resolve our salary anomalies, The government is attempting to militarize education using the Kotalavala bill. We want to teach them that as well. A minister has said that we are contributing to form a COVID-19 cluster. Did we spread COVID-19 by engaging in celebrations and by bringing down foreigners? They are making statements without any official from the Department of Education. Why are irrelevant people commenting on this? Meanwhile, a teachers' union in Polonnaruwa staged a protest citing several demands, including the need to withdraw the Sir John Kotalavala Defence University Bill. We took steps to protect free education by closing off Saitam. The force against the latest move is more powerful. Withdraw the bill immediately. Why are they moving protesters to undergo quarantine in high security zones? The government's objective is clear. They are trying to suppress people as they have failed to implement their promises. The people will take to the streets against that. The Ceylon Teachers Union staged a protest near the Jaffna Central bus stand against the suppression of unionists who opposed the Sir John Kotalavala Defence University Bill. Some parliamentarians were also among the protesters. Moving the group, including Joseph Stalin, to quarantine is a hilarious decision. The government is displaying a tendency of suppressing people. They must step forward and protect the rights of people who act democratically.
Meanwhile, 16 people, including the Ceylon Teachers Union General Secretary Joseph Stalin, were released from the Air Force-run quarantine facility in Mullaitivu today. Stalin said that bus services had been made available for the group to return to their homes.
The officer in charge of the quarantine facility in Mullaitivu, that is run by the Air Force, informed that we would be released and that buses would be used to transport us. We feel that the pressure exerted by the people, regardless of any differences, is the reason for this decision.
6 people, including the Frontline Socialist Party's General Secretary Duminda Nagamua, were released from a quarantine facility in Pallikale today.
This is clearly an act of suppression carried out by the government that is politically motivated. Now the government has been taught a lesson that they cannot act as they please without the people's approval.
The appeal court today ordered that the habeas corpus petition filed by the wife of the Frontline Socialist Party's General Secretary, Duminda Nagamua, to be taken up on the 19th of this month. The petition had sought an order to produce Nagamua in court, citing that he had been forcibly moved to quarantine by the police. Meanwhile, a fundamental rights petition was filed at the Supreme Court, arguing that the rights of the Ceylon Teachers Union's General Secretary Joseph Stalin had been violated. Attorney-at-law Ravina De Silva had filed the petition, citing that Stalin had been forcibly moved to quarantine on the 8th of this month after being granted bail by court. The Inspector General of Police, the Minister of Health and the Director General of Health Services are among the 10 respondents named in the petition.
Teachers' unions convened a joint media briefing in Horana today.
We are strongly against the attempts of this government to wash their hands of their own failures, the failure of the Minister of Education and the failure of the Secretary of Education, and blame the teachers. We would like to clearly state that all teachers have joined this trade union action. We would like to remind you that we are not staging this protest to exact revenge from children, but to protect the right to education of children in the future.
අනාගතයේ දරු පරපුරේ අධ්‍යාපන අයිතීන් ආරක්ෂා කිරීම වෙනුවෙන් බව අපි පැහැදිලිව මතක් කරන්නට ඕනේ.
Various members of the government and ministers are making a variety of statements. We would like to inform this cabinet of ministers who are making jokes not to create a dark future for the children of this country. We would also like to inform the government that we will continue our struggle. All teachers and principals will stand together on this matter. We will not be fooled by the statements of the government. We are working to ensure the rights of the innocent and poor children and make their education free from militarization. So don't drag this problem any further for the sake of the children's education. Besides the children of the elite in the country, about 60% of the children are ordinary children. We kindly request the Minister of Education and secretaries who utter empty words to come and solve this issue properly.
We know that although this issue has entered day 5, no responsible official has responded to it. We were called scoundrels. Are these proper responses? They have not yet held discussions with teachers and principals. There haven't been any discussions. This has now continued for 5 days, and next week we will further intensify this trade union action.
Dilum
Amunugama said that one teacher is enough to conduct online teaching. The cabinet spokesperson of this country is saying that people involved in these struggles are scoundrels. These insults won't stop our struggle. It will not stop our fight against oppression, the right to free education, and the fight to remove salary anomalies of teachers and principals. We will continue this. The government has been listening to the people constantly. We know that we backtracked on our decision concerning the East Container Terminal after listening to trade unions. This is the nature of our government. Therefore, there is no need to bring matters to the government's attention by using children as scapegoats. That is wrong. I'm kindly requesting the teachers to resolve the issues through discussions. Don't use children to clash with the government. Let us solve the problem directly. If the police has acted unfairly, let us solve it with the police. There is no point of using children as scapegoats. The Director General of Health Services has instructed the police to stop protests and demonstrations. That is why the police took steps to quell the protests. The protesters were not moved to quarantine based on the whims and fancies of the police. It was done with the approval of public health inspectors. Why is the police being blamed for this? If possible, suggest an alternative to arrest suspects who resist such moves without carrying them away or firing water cannons. We shall then adopt that approach to arrest people.
වෙන ගෙනියන්න ක්‍රමයක් තියෙනවා නම් කරුණාකරලා අපිට කියලා දෙන්න. අපි ඒ ක්‍රමයට ඊට පස්සේ මිනිසුන් අරන් ගිහලා අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්නවා.
The minister expressed these remarks when declaring open the Alubomula and Hirana police stations in Panudura. He also commented on providing military training to the youth.
I was criticized heavily for proposing military training to those above the age of 18. This doesn't mean we need to make them army officers. If we are to provide some form of training for an 18-year-old, the suitable place to do it would be an army camp, as it consists of some discipline and possesses the facilities. If we offer a course to improve leadership and one's qualities, we will be able to establish a disciplined society. This is spreading in the country today because there are no people who love the country.
ක්‍රමක්‍රමයෙන් විනයගරුක සමාජයක් බවට පත් කරා. අද රටට මේ වගේ විපත්තියක් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ රටට ආදරය කරන පුද්ගලයෝ නැති නිසා.
This is how crowds gathered to welcome the newly appointed chairman of the Nawalapitiya Urban Council, Amal Priyankara. Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage also attended the event. Various protests are being staged in the country opposing the Sir John Kotalawala Defence University Bill. Associations of professionals, trade unions, political parties and civil activists are among those who are calling for the bill to be withdrawn. The Federation of University Teachers Association met with opposition leader Sajid Premadasa to discuss their concerns on the bill. We will abolish a system in which the appointment of a vice-chancellor is politicized as it is done by the president. I don't believe that it doesn't suit the modern society. We will stand for the protection of students and lecturers. We must come forward against this without any fear.
We will unconditionally stand for free education with university lecturers and the students. We believe that the bill must be withdrawn. That is the stance of those in universities. We put forward this opinion to the opposition leader and received a favourable response. We are happy to note that we have already begun talks with other associations comprising of professionals, engineers, doctors and lawyers. The next 2 weeks will be decisive.
The Government Medical Officers Association spoke about the proposed Kothalawala Defence University bill at a media briefing held today.
The Kothalawala Defence University bill coming back into the limelight has given rise to certain issues. We know that this bill was brought in 2018 and rejected, and now it has been brought back again. The Kothalawala Defence University bill has given rise to issues that are even greater than the Saitam issue. So as the Government Medical Officers Association, we do not see this as something positive. We believe that responsible officials owes us, as well as the general public, an explanation on this matter. We believe that it is mandatory that the regulation of this should move away from the Defence University and must be vested in the Medical Council. Also, it must be subject to the regulatory powers of the University Grants Commission. There are many parts of this act that must be changed. Amendments must be made to these sections. We will take necessary steps to ensure that quality is maintained. As the Government Medical Officers Association, we are of a strong stance that certain sections of this bill must be changed. This university will offer the same degrees offered by other universities in the country. There are about 40% of civilian students. We will guarantee that no students from these universities will be seen holding a placard on the road. No students will smoke weed inside this university. No students will consume alcohol under trees. And all students will complete their studies in the allocated time and leave the university. Which country does not have military universities? I gave military training to students for a certain period. 7 cases were filed at the Supreme Court against that. The students who followed that program are worshipping us today. Our team was unable to answer even a single question put forward by the opposition. I am currently seated on the benches at the back in the parliamentary chambers. But according to my seniority, I must sit right next to Mahinda Rajapaksa. I am more senior than all of them. Mahinda Samarasinghe is next. We are seniors, but we are seated on the benches at the back in the parliamentary chambers. If I wasn't, there should be something wrong with my head. We don't see that as a great failure. We are laughing and we are happy. We go to the temple, eat manioc, cook potatoes and sweet potatoes. We are very happy. I think what they did to me was wrong. But I don't fret. I am happy.
In more local news, the Engineers Association of the Ceylon Electricity Board has revealed that the Secretary to the Ministry of Power had signed an initial agreement for the supply of liquefied natural gas needed for LNG power plants, while international tenders have been called for the same.
US-based New Fortress has reached an agreement with the Sri Lankan government for the supply of LNG required for the power plant which is to be constructed. Based on the agreement, an offshore LNG receiving, storage and regasification terminal located off the coast of Colombo are to be set up with a pipeline extending from the terminal to Keravalapitia. Chairman of the Engineers Association of the Ceylon Electricity Board, Saumya Kumaravadu, said that the Ministry of Finance had entered into this agreement a few days before the accepting of tenders began for the construction of the terminal and the pipeline.
LNG business global.
The New Fortress company had tendered for this along with global giants in LNG like Gola. New Fortress have held discussions with the government on this. Even the president asked them to submit a tender. New Fortress had agreed to submit a tender. But a few days before the tenders were opened, they have now gone ahead and signed a framework agreement. When this matter was presented in the cabinet, even the Minister of Power, Dalasalaha Peruma, was not aware of this. It was only when he attended the cabinet meeting that he found out that a cabinet paper had been presented. Our general manager had received this agreement a few days ago after it was signed.
නැතුව මේ නෝර්ත් වල LNG බලාගාරය ඇමරිකාවට ගෙන්න යනවා කියලා දෙන්න යනවා. ඒක දැන් පහුගිය කාලේ පුරා ඔබතුමාලා මේ MTC ගුවටන විරුද්ධ වුණා හඩක් නැගුවා. දැන් මේ සම්බන්ධව ඔබතුමා මොකක්ද හිතන්නේ?
It is not being given away to the United States. It is being given to a United States company. Only shares held by the Finance Ministry have been given away. Shares held by the Ceylon Electricity Board or any other entity haven't been given away. We had to take certain measures due to the foreign exchange crisis being experienced in the country. The President had put forward the justification to the Cabinet.
ඒ පියවර සාධාරණීකරණය කිරීම සඳහා ජනාධිපතිතුමන් විසින් කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයට ඉදිරිපත් කරපු කාරණය.
වැසිලන්තුමත් එක දැන් බොහොම ක්‍රමවත් පිළිවෙලකට ගමනක් යන්න පුළුවන්ද?
දැන් ඕන කෙනෙක් එක්ක ක්‍රමවත් පිළිවෙලකට ගමනක් යන්න පුළුවන් නම් ගමනක් යන්න අපි සූදානම්. ඒක කවුද කියන එක අදාළ නැහැ.
මාධ්‍ය ආයතන වැඩි පේන්නේ නැහැ. මොකක් හරි කැපිල්ලක් එම තියෙනවද රජයත් එක්ක?
මාධ්‍ය ආයතන වලින් මට කිසිම කැපිල්ලක් නැහැ.
පවතින
රජයත් එක්ක කැපිල්ලක් තියෙනවා කියලා මම පේන්නේ නැති වෙන්නේ මොකටද?
මොකද කට්ටියක් කඩාගෙන යන්න යනවනේ. ඒකේ ඔබතුමාත් ඉන්නවද පිටිපස්සෙන්?
කවුද කොහෙද කඩාගෙන යන්නේ?
එහෙම අපිට ආරංචියක් තියෙනවා නිකන්.
වා හීනෙන් මොකක් හරි එකක්ද කරන්නේ? හීනයක්ද කරන්නේ?
Newsfirst has been reporting on the prevailing fertilizer crisis in the country. However, have the farmers received a solution as yet? Several protests were staged in many parts of the country today as well.
නිකං වෙනවා කියා කොහොර නිකං වෙනවා කියා ලොක්කෝ අපිව රැවට්ටුවා ලොක්කෝ අපිව රැවට්ටුවා දියව් දියව් ඕර දියව් 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 ඕර දියව් දෙනවා කිව්වා ඕර දියව් දෙනවා කිව්වා ඕර දියව් 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 ඕර දියව් වගාවන්ත ඕර දියව් වගාවන්ත.
Farmers of Luckyland in Uvaparanagama staged a protest against the fertilizer crisis in the country.
ඇයි අපිට මෙහෙම කරන්නේ මේ ගොවියෝ ගොඩාක් අතරට වෙලා ඉන්නේ මේ දරුවන්ට කණ්ඩ දෙන්නේ අපි ගොවිතෙන් කරලා තේවගා කරලා කිසිම දෙයක් කරගන්න නැතුව අපි අද මහා පාරේ හිඟා කන තත්ත්වයට මේ ඇටිලා තියෙන්නේ.
The government is acting to empower those in the black market. They are selling fertilizer at exorbitant rates. Fertilizer that was once sold at 1,600 rupees is now being sold between 3,000 and 7,000 rupees. Farmers are being affected by this daily. The government hasn't been able to provide fertilizer. The fertilizer is not harmful. We are engaging in large-scale cultivations after studying agriculture. We are helpless due to the lack of fertilizer. A protest was staged in Kalubo, Vitiana over the issues faced by small-scale tea estate owners. It has been more than 4 months since they destroyed cultivations in the country by using the word chemical as a cover after banning fertilizer imports. This is a conspiracy carried out by the government. Everyone must be responsible for this damage. The president told the world that chemical fertilizer won't be imported to Sri Lanka and that cultivations would be carried out using organic fertilizer. Parliamentarians and ministers are also expressing remarks to that effect. The people have been left utterly helpless. We are wondering whether the decision was made by the ministerial cabinet or a kitchen cabinet. If the government has even an ounce of shame and cannot withdraw this decision, it is time that they distribute fertilizer even in a discreet manner. There is no point in distributing fertilizer at the wrong time. They cannot cultivate during the next season as they have mortgaged the jewelry of their children. This is the situation. Another group is saying that there is no foreign revenue in the country. 100 rupees is spent on $1 to import fertilizer, but we can earn 1,500 rupees by plucking tea leaves. Therefore, we are losing foreign currency due to the lack of fertilizer. How many people may die of hunger and starvation? And also because of being unable to purchase medicine for their children. Who will be responsible for this?
A protest was held in Kuliapitia demanding authorities to suspend the transfer of the professors' unit at the YMB University Science Faculty from Kuliapitia to Kurunegala.
The protest was staged near the Kuliapitia Teaching Hospital. Members of the United National Party, Samagi Jana Balawegaya, Janata Vimukti Peramuna and the Sri Lanka Freedom Party participated in the protest.
If attempts are being made to loot these resources, then those people must bear in mind to focus on serving the people and not serving personal interests. There is no politics involved here. This is the need of the people. The teaching hospital was gazetted properly. It has the approval of the University Grants Commission. Cabinet approval has also been granted for it. Therefore, no one can reverse these moves. Regardless of which government, politician or president comes to power, they don't have the right to take away this facility. We wish to tell the president and the prime minister that we will not halt this struggle. We will all unite against this cause.
Stores were closed down in Kuliapitia in line with the protests.
The COVID-19 pandemic has struck a deadly blow to the people across all walks of life. People who once used to earn a living are now complaining of a loss of their livelihoods. Newsfirst, the voice of the people, takes a look at the segments of society that have been badly affected amidst the pandemic.
Bus services have continued to play an integral part in the lives of the people. However, those involved in the public transport industry are now lamenting over the loss of income. I own 4 buses. They haven't been in operation since April. Today is the first time in which we resumed services. We have to settle bank debts and shops that sell tires. It is difficult to operate these services. We don't have a proper mode of income. Not many passengers board buses these days as well. Banks are asking us to settle debt along with interest. How can we do that? We don't have a proper source of income.
ALG
Vimalasuriya joined the public transport industry in 1992. All his years of hard work have not reaped great benefits for him. As bus owners lament the loss of their livelihoods, the situation of drivers is even worse. We were unable to engage in our livelihoods since April. It is very difficult to live. We have been living like this for several months. We are asking for some form of concession. Fuel prices have been increased. We cannot inconvenience passengers. We used to assist in farming when we didn't operate buses. We don't have alternative jobs. Driving is our profession. Many bus owners and those in the public transport service industry are also lamenting of a similar situation. We lost our jobs. We didn't receive any form of income. We used to pluck mangoes to earn a living, but our hands have been injured since we aren't used to this. No one offers us employment as well. They treat us in a disrespectful manner since we are employed in buses. No one has granted us job security. What can we do about it? Although buses resumed operations after several months, very few passengers board them due to the interprovincial travel restrictions. We are operating these buses without passengers. We don't have a salary. We don't have money to purchase fuel. How can we run these buses? I came to work today only after eating breadfruit and jackfruit for 3 months. I used to stare at the sky hoping for some form of relief. We should run these buses at least once to consume at least an onion sambal.
Indictments were served on attorney-at-law Hijaz Hizbullah and Mohammed Shakil, the principal of a madrasa school in Putlam. Now the duo were produced before the Putlam High Court yesterday.
Attorney-at-law Hijaz Hizbullah and the principal of a madrasa school have been charged under the Prevention of Terrorism Act and the ICCPR Act for offences related to hate speech. The charges have been filed based on a statement of a child that was previously recorded by the authorities. The case was postponed to the 5th of August. Meanwhile, Amnesty International recently named Hijaz Hezbollah a prisoner of conscience. Amnesty International's prisoner of conscience determination is based on the information available to Amnesty International regarding the circumstances leading to the person's detention. In naming a person as a prisoner of conscience, Amnesty International is affirming that this person must be immediately and unconditionally released.
We will be back after this short commercial break. Stay tuned. This is News First, the voice of the people.
The magical sounds of Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra. This year's Summer Night Concert, 18th of July 2021, 5 p.m. onwards, exclusively on TV1.
Welcome back to the news. The Sri Lanka Scouts Association hosted the opening ceremony of the Global Cultural Jamboree via Zoom today. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa was the chief guest at the event.
Fellow Scouts, ladies and gentlemen,
the Global Cultural Jamboree will take place from the 16th to the 18th of July. The Jamboree is hosted under the theme Culturally One Scout World this year. Scouts from across the world were a part of the event. A variety of Sri Lankan cultural performances added colour to the event. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa addressed the event.
The challenges that the future will bring may be more difficult to overcome than those of the past. In addition to today's problems such as conflicts and the pandemic, issues such as the loss of biodiversity, environmental degradation, food security, access to water, and climate change are challenges that will need to be overcome in the future. The World Organization of the Scout Movement and similar entities must equip young people with the skills that they need to face these future challenges with confidence. They must encourage the youth to think globally and prepare them to take global action on these issues. In this context, the coming together of 15,000 scouts from over 100 countries through this global cultural jamboree is praiseworthy indeed.
The Ganma, the International Leadership Council, hosted an online conference on lessons learned from Sri Lanka's ancient hydraulic heritage.
The online conference focused on leadership lessons that can be drawn from Sri Lanka's ancient hydraulic heritage. Dr. P.B. Dharmasena, an expert on ancient hydraulic societies of Sri Lanka, engineer Sanjeeva Vijay Singha of the Central Engineering Consultancy Bureau, and Jayantha Vijay Singha of the Rainforest Protectors of Sri Lanka participated in the conference. The experts shared their views on Sri Lanka's unique hydraulic heritage that has been built around Vavas.
Details have come to light that a Chinese company involved in running a sea cucumber hatchery has not settled taxes. News First, Senitha Senanaika reports from Jaffna.
A Chinese company by the name of Guilan Limited is running a sea cucumber hatchery in Ariale in Jaffna with one Sri Lankan partner. Around 700,000 sea cucumbers are farmed in the hatchery. During the inception of the project, Guilan Private Limited promised to provide free sea cucumber to the people. But the Nallur Urban Council says that it is yet to settle taxes. The Chinese company has said that it has been unable to settle tax payments as a result of not earning profits. Details have come to light that Sri Ganesha, a member of the Nallur Urban Council, is the manager of the project. He is the member of the Elam People's Democratic Party led by Minister Douglas Devananda. Although the operations of an illegal sea cucumber farm in Kilinochchi had been exposed previously, no action had been taken towards that. It is now learnt that sea cucumber is being transported from the hatchery in Jaffna to the sea cucumber farm in Kaudarimune, Kalmune, Kilinochchi. Fishermen complain that fishes and other marine creatures have left the waters in the area. They also question how the Chinese are allowed to operate a sea cucumber farm when the local fishermen are not even allowed to catch sea cucumber. On the 13th of this month, the fishermen had informed Fisheries Minister Douglas Devananda that they would provide 15 days to clear the sea cucumber farm.
Where I am in right now is a sea cucumber breeding farm in Ariale, Jaffna, under the operations of a China-Sri Lanka joint venture. Now, yesterday, our Newsfirst team visited the sea cucumber nursing farm in Kaudarimune, Kalmune, and when we arrived here, we saw that close to 15 ponds used to breed these sea cucumbers. Now, there is an operational link between the breeding farm here in Ariale, Jaffna, and the nursing farm, the sea cucumber nursing farm in Kaudarimune, Kalmune. That is, once the sea cucumber eggs are hatched here and they are bred up to 6 months, and once the larvae stage is bred for 6 months, and when it has grown, they are transported from this breeding farm to the nursing farm in Kaudarimune, Kalmune using waterways through the ocean. I'm Senitha Senanayake reporting for Newsfirst.
Thank you, Senitha, for bringing us that comprehensive report. And that's a wrap of this edition of Primetime News. We leave you tonight with some of the views expressed by former Provincial Councillor Chatura Kalpati. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Azra Hassan with our sign language interpreter, Taraka Gabriel. Take care and good night.
The epilogue.
When I visited villages during the last few days, I saw that the people were using adages to raise awareness on the government's actions. I wrote down a few of them for you. They are like coming to save Wilpattu and cutting down Singharaja, like coming to save the Hambantota port and giving away the Colombo port, like coming to capture the bond thieves and stealing from the sugar scam, like throwing pots in the river to cure COVID-19, like publishing rivers gazettes to reduce the prices of goods, like spraying water to douse the fire on board a vessel carrying chemicals, like Godahewa's monsoon season, like banning fertilizer due to the lack of dollars, like handing over a bag of clothes to Pumihan Somali who was sent for quarantine, like giving away the port city in exchange for vaccines, like getting online alcohol when asked for online education, like sending Ranjan in and getting Duminda out, like addressing the nation in the afternoon and going live in the night. In short, if we combine all of this, we can say that like Sir had done it best. Also in the future, we would also be able to say adages like handing over the responsibility of fixing the economy to Mr. 10%, like Basil blowing the whistle. In the end, we will be able to speak of adages similar to like kicking out the hero and bringing in a boaster. This is what we can think of.
මේ සේරම අපිට සිහිපත් කරව මතක් වෙන්නේ මෙත් මල් පිපි දේවා සිත් තුල මෙත් මල් පිපි දේවා කියලා තමයි